Yes, we're back live in the studios here at Viewpoint, high on the hill in Atlanta, 96.3, 648-5510. In case anybody had any questions for our candidate for circuit judgeship, Mr. Chris Gramm out of Bloomington. My associate this morning is Judy Busby's daughter and our dear friend Cynthia Bowns. We're glad to have you back with us since.
It is very good to be here, Uncle Bill.
I'll give you my check next week to appear for me.
No problem. I'm not going to give up my day job.
I note in the bio here that Chris joins me in being a long-suffering Bears and Illini fan, among a couple of others. Poor old Bruce is going to have a little problem this year. I have being an alum of Illinois, perhaps a little closer than you. But not necessarily that much. So
losing to Northwestern at home is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. I would
Boo Birds are out, unfortunately.
Would tell you though that I did do a master's degree at the University of Illinois, and so I consider myself an Illini as well. And one of my favorite jobs was...
Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, that's all right. One of my favorite jobs was taking tickets at Memorial Stadium for football games.
Oh, really?
We got to work a quarter and then see the rest of the game, so it was a lot of fun.
When I was a kid over there, I was the sophomore hockey manager for the hockey team. And we had a pretty good hockey team over there at that time. That was a kind of a fun experience.
Probably the only ice rink in Central Illinois at the time, huh?
Oh, yeah. That was a dandy, too. And we had some really great players. As you've been around your camp, how many days are you out, sir, to campaign? You still have a practice to work with and clients to defend and so forth?
Yeah, well...
Kind of difficult? You have to give up a lot of weekends?
I've got a good campaign manager that reminds me that it's God, family, clients, then campaign.
Okay.
And we've been, making sure to go to church and go to work, get the kids tucked into bed, and pancake and sausage breakfast all the rest of the time. So
that's pretty important that they know Dad's there to tuck them in. And that takes a lot of juggling, particularly when you're on the campaign trail. How do you feel about the length of campaigns, Chris? Let me qualify that by saying I think it's obscene. We ought to have limited campaign time, particularly not necessarily here at the local level. That isn't, but at the national level, it just goes on ad nauseum and ad infinitum. At an obscene amount of money. Comments about that?
Well, when I was volunteering for other campaigns in the past for conservative candidates, of course, this previous cycle was kind of difficult because the old hands didn't really understand how that was going to go with an early February primary. It was certainly much more compact because everybody was used to the campaign getting started, right after Christmas or, right after New Year's. And, 30 days to hit it. I think something like that could, favor the incumbent or the sort of inevitable candidate. I'm glad that there's time for candidates to get out to meet people and things like last night can happen. I mean, way to go, Rick Santorum, huh?
That was an interesting swing of events up there. That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the next few months. I just think that the amount of money that they're spending for these national offices is just absolutely obscene. And I don't know that you can legislate that away. That's our system.
Well, and I appreciate, because so often when you're voting for judgeship or who you're going to retain at the university level, you have no idea where these people stand, how they feel about who they are, what kind of job they do. So this gives us an opportunity, and hopefully the listeners, to make an informed decision.
Absolutely, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this. It's been 10 years since the voters in the 11th Judicial Circuit have had a choice, and we want to get out and meet them.
On balance, I think we've been very lucky here in this district to have the kind of judgeships that we have enjoyed. Very lucky,
Yes.
from my standpoint, and it's nice to have the qualified candidates out there and vying for a job that is now open. At what point in time did you decide, that's something I think I might like to do, as far as the judgeship is concerned?
Well, I think, as an attorney, career-wise, it does become, a logical career path, career aspiration. So, I've long thought about it since I became an attorney, since the days in law school, actually, when we'd have our mock trials and things. I thought, that guy sitting up there, he gets to make some important decisions.
That would be the fun part of being a law student, I would think, would be going through the mock trial part of your education. Did you find any role models in that as you were a student?
Well, that part was hard, because you're making the transition from thinking like everybody else does that it's law and order, or TV doesn't do you any help. CSI or whatever, and then transitioning into the real practice of it.
I was just going to defer to you if you had a little question there.
No, I don't.
I wanted to ask him. At what time then did you decide that you would specialize in defense law?
Well, again, it was just sort of a natural transition with my bedrock courtroom experience being prosecuting crimes. As someone who was opening a practice, it seemed to be, the natural product that I could offer people.
There are a number of practicing lawyers in your area. Huge amount of practicing lawyers up there, and I presume that one decides that I'm either going to specialize in this force of the law, or then I'll go into criminal law, or how does that evolve? Each and every one of your fellow associates, they just make a determination as to what they want to specialize in their practice.
Well, some of it's market driven too. I would presume there's big insurance companies up there that need insurance defense work done. There's universities that unfortunately demographically produce a lot of people that would fit my client base. So it's market driven, I would say.
How does law school work? When I think back to working on my undergraduate, the first 2 years you're taking all of those lovely classes, a little speech, a little creative writing, Math 101, and then kind of determining where you're going the last 2 years working on your bachelor's degree. In law school, we're looking at 2 years, correct?
Three
years.
Mm-hmm.
Is the first year just all those lovely electives and you kind of get a smattering and a taste?
No,
or
ma'am.
Or you go in saying, I'm going to be a corporate lawyer?
No. 1L is what you call it, first year law student, or 1L, and it's an interesting thing, because basically no matter what law school you go to in the whole country, you're going to get the same course offerings for the 1Ls, and they're going to be property, they're going to be contracts, they're going to be torts, they're going to be criminal law, they're going to be constitutional law, so that you have a sort of a wide base knowledge in civil and in criminal matters. And then it's second and third years that become more of what you would call electives. They say that as first-year law students, they scare you to death. As second-year law students, they work you to death. And as third-year law students, they bore you to death. And I found that to be somewhat true.
About half right?
Yeah. Just like anything else.
I note that you have sat at both tables in the courtroom, defense and prosecution, since you were an assistant state's attorney. And how long did you fill that capacity, sir?
Not quite 2 years.
Uh-huh. So you have had considerable experience on both sides of the fence as far as prosecuting and defending is concerned.
Yes, sir.
Was there anything unusual while you were a state's attorney that comes to mind that would be something that you had kind of gone to school on and remembered?
Oh, I remember getting beat by the good defense attorneys, and can't forget those lessons.
Our young friend who's now our circuit judge, whom we respect and love very much, Judge Harris.
Mm-hmm.
He practiced law up at your territory for a little while with a very major firm. Did you get to know Judge Harris in the course of your practice up there?
Not in Bloomington. I've appeared in front of him down in Lincoln a number of times.
Yeah. I hope he wasn't representing me on defense or something.
We could get that expunged for you, maybe.
Yes, I know a little bit about that expungement business. The fact that you have Japanese culture in your background and had spent some time there, has there been anything in that has influenced you at all, sir, in your practice and in your relationships with people in general?
Well, I would tell you that it helps you appreciate what you have and what you might take for granted. Certainly, the Japanese just about don't have a word for land-based horizon. In fact, their common reference point for horizon has to do with the horizon at sea. And you and I, being from central Illinois, understand that we can look down the corner of the bean field and see the horizon without obstruction. And so, I did learn that there's another world out there, and that we take a lot of things for granted, whether it's the wide open spaces that we're blessed with, whether it's the Constitution we're blessed with, whether it's a good hospital that we're blessed with. These things don't exactly happen worldwide.
Yeah, that's the thing. You see, particularly here in the flatland where we are, Cynthia, we're so provincial. Most of us haven't gotten too far from Burtonview, and we don't really quite understand the cultures that are out there in the world. That now we're all, at one point in time they were so far away, and now they're just a few hours away. And in fact, due to the World Wide Web, they're seconds away. So it becomes an entirely different relationship. I was just sitting here thinking, Chris might be a chance for me to reacquaint myself with a Japanese friend of mine. Many years ago, I went down the Colorado River, put in at Page, Arizona, and came out at Lake Mead. Quite an experience, by the by. And Mr. Ukai and I were the only two who were unaccompanied on this trip. The rest of them were couples or paired up. And so Yaz and I got to be good friends, and he later was a guest in our house for Christmas that following Christmas after that trip down the canyon. And he was a unique individual, and he was with a professor at Kyoto University. And as I indicated before the show, somehow we just kind of drifted apart a little bit, and you've kind of inspired me to maybe through something you might be able to help me with to trace that fellow down and reacquaint ourselves. A quick aside, when we go down through some real rough water, Yaz would put on goggles and the whole thing and get really ready for this rough water. And I said to him about the second day, I said, "Yaz, you look like a kamikaze pilot." And he thought that worked out very, very well. Chris, we're going to wrap up here. Cynthia, do you have anything in particular that you'd like to wrap up with, my dear?
I do not. other than I would like to thank you very much, Chris. We have enjoyed this.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate your time, sir. We always try to rack off the Viewpoint program with a quote. This is, when the government puts teeth into a law, they are not always wisdom teeth. Thank you very much, Chris Gramm, candidate for Circuit Judge.
Thank you, Bill. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.